Hi guys, we'll be making scrunchies today, and I want to let you know that you can use pretty much almost every single fabric you can think of. Some fabrics are easier to work with, and we're going to start with this one. So next what we need to do is fold out the fabric and check the length. So we only have a top layer and a bottom layer to make two scrunchie patterns. Now, you don't have to have a big cutting mat like mine. You can use a regular ruler. We will be cutting out a 3.5-inch width and a 19 to 21 inch length. And like I said, you don't have to use the mat like I have. You can use just a regular ruler. Even plastic, doesn't have to be metal. So we're going to start by lining up and checking to make sure that our fabric is the right length. Luckily for me, the length was already 19 inches, so all I had to do was measure up for 3.5 inches. Next, I will be adding some weights. I just use coasters. Just try to stabilize it. You don't have to, but it makes it a little bit easier. And then you don't have to be precise. You can just eyeball it. You can use the rotary cutter to kind of make a guide and then cut it like I did. And next we'll be cutting this in half because it is the edge. So we can make two. And you're going to repeat this step throughout as much fabric as you'd like. I generally like to save the scraps, but you don't have to. And as you can see, you can do this multiple times. It's a pretty quick process, so you can collect these pretty easily. Next, we'll be making our tube for the scrunchie. You're going to face right sides together. Throughout the entire piece, and as you're putting it through the sewing machine, you can shuffle it as needed. As I'm going to show you here, you want to start, as I mess up, but I caught myself, and you have to start about an inch and a half below the top of the tube. I generally try to put it at the 1 mark on my sewing machine. And then as I'm lining up, you're going to want to remember that you need to backstitch as well, and then proceed forward. As you continue along, obviously, like I said earlier, you will want to readjust as needed to make sure that things are lining up as evenly as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, as I'm doing here. You will continue through. I'm holding it there just so you guys can see more of what I'm doing. Generally, I have my hand in a different spot, but I was, obviously attempting to show you how I do this. Again, at the bottom, you're going to leave an inch and a half. And also, don't forget to backstitch. And you're just going to want to cut off like usual, and I tie it. You don't have to since you did the back stitch, but I did out of comfort. There is my cat Lenny. So now we're going to take our tube and flip it inside out. This can be a long process, and there's other ways to do it. I just do it while I'm watching YouTube with my hands. You can use different type of tools, knitting needles, so on and so forth, chopsticks to do this, but you can do it however which way you find fit. As you can tell, Lenny is my buddy when it comes to crafting. He likes to hang out with me. Next, we'll be doing the same thing like we did earlier with our two ends, and we will be putting right sides together to kind of close up the loop, but without completing the entire circle. So here I'm going to show you, put right sides together and then putting on the sewing machine. Now this is one of the more difficult parts of keeping those kept together. You will want to take your time and stop and start if you have to. And shuffle it, move it, but you are allowed to take your time. If it doesn't work the first time, you can always try again. We are going to thread our elastic. Now I use a safety pin and a regular pin. You're going to want to pin both sides. Now, for the pattern I use, the elastic that I cut is roughly around 6 inches. Now we will lose some of that as we sew it later on in the process, but that also helps give with the elasticity. So we're going to shove it through. You put the safety pin in first, and then you pin with a regular pin through the elastic and then through the fabric, and then you can start pushing the safety pin through without having to worry about the other side of the elastic also running through. So here we're just going to push it through. See you on the other side. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to take off the pin and the safety pin, and here am I showing you, it becoming into a scrunchie. Next, we'll be placing both elastics together and sewing like this. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but I will show you what happens or what you can do to kind of get rid of the extra tail at the end. So we're going to set it over to a zigzag stitch. And now we're going to run through it a couple times. We're going to back stitch a couple times as well. We want to make sure that it's really sewn together. Now I probably didn't mention this earlier, but you are going to want to use a semi-matching thread to what fabric you are using. So now with that done, I'm going to cut that off. I, again, will tie the ends. You don't have to, but I do it as just an extra measure. See with the ends, there's going to be a little bit of a tail if it's not perfectly lined up, and all you have to do is take some scissors and cut off the end. Just make sure you're not cutting where you had previously stitched, and there will be no problem from there. You are going to want to pull on that stress point to make sure that it is together and held, and if it breaks, you obviously want to sew it a little bit more and try again. But if you pull on it a couple times and it doesn't break, then you're good to go. Next, we are going to fold the raw seams in, and we're going to close up our scrunchie. Now we're going to want to switch it back to a straight stitch. Just a simple one. Simple straight stitch, nothing too fancy here, unless you want to. place it in, and you're going to try to get to as close to the end as you possibly can, and close it on up. Just go from one point of the opening to the end, and that will close up your scrunchie for you. And there you have it. You just made a scrunchie, or just watched along with me, but that's fine too. But there you go. You have your own scrunchie. Now, if you didn't want to make it and just wanted to watch the process, you can find them on our website at flightfancy.com. And if you'd like to see more tutorials and other fun videos, follow and subscribe. Thank you.